Yeah, we jumped into UMass yesterday and got started on these guys and got our players in, and we'll be moving forward with them. Heard the unfortunate news about Don Brown just recently, and know Shane from past, and recruited together on the road and been around Shane before. He's a tremendous coach, and we look forward to preparing for this game.
Hey, Kirby, do you have an update on Dylan, and is there any kind of timeline on Trevor being able to play him?
No update on Dylan, really. I just ran into him a few minutes ago. He got an ankle sprain. Not going to require, it's stable. Not going to require any kind of surgery or anything. So hopeful to get him back, and same with Trevor.
Kirby, in a span of 1 week, we saw two different outcomes, I guess you may want to call, from the offensive line. What was the biggest difference between they collectively played as a group between the Ole Miss game and last Saturday?
I don't know. It's easy to say they played better against Tennessee. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But number one, they were healthier. Number two, the environment was a little different. We did get behind, and we had to play from behind. But I think that they executed at a higher level, and we didn't really run the ball great, but we had the ability to run the ball. And success in running the ball comes in different terms these days, especially in the SEC.
Yeah, on the offensive line, Ernest and Micah don't play on Saturday. How close were they being able to play and help you guys?
Ernest was going to be a game time decision, and he's still struggling with that arm. That he was out there giving everything he had against Ole Miss, and didn't have complete strength in his left arm, which is hard to use at left tackle. We're hoping that he continues to gain strength. Micah was close to being able to go, and might have been an emergency Saturday, but it's not completely healthy. But he's going to be out there working today and trying to get back in.
Yeah, Coach, how do you feel like Will Freeman played after watching the tape?
Well, he had some oversets. He had a couple times that Carson did a nice job moving in the pocket and gave up some pressure, but he really competed hard, played physical, got better kind of as the game went on. Thought he had some jitters early, but very bright and continues to work really hard.
Coach, you guys didn't have any turnovers this past Saturday, but the ball did hit the ground a few times. How did you feel about the ball security in the game and kind of for the season,
Well, it's funny because I look at it as a defensive coach when I watched our offensive tape, and I actually thought we had better ball security against Ole Miss than we did against Tennessee. And a lot of people they can't acknowledge the difference. So I was very positive with our team after Ole Miss and emphasized that there were less exposures of the ball than what we had. Although they took the ball away from Nate. He didn't have bad ball security. There's a difference. There's a takeaway, and then there's exposures. And unfortunately for your business, they just look at them the same, and that is not the case. And we had bad exposures Saturday, and we've had some bad exposures throughout the year, like when guys catch balls and the ball's loose. I'm honestly more focused on our defense, why we don't get people with bad exposures, because the teams we play have more bad exposures than we do, but we don't get more out. So I'm trying to solve that problem.
Kirby, you guys have a chance to be 10-2 at the end of the regular season. Is it better for Georgia, given the turnaround time and the length of the playoff and the possibility of going 10-3, not to go to the SEC championship game?
I don't think that's a hypothetical that the focus is on UMass. I mean, it really is. So why would I put energy or time into trying to figure out what the best pathway is, including the SEC championship, when I'm worried about UMass? I just don't think it's a quality conversation.
Kirby, the Tennessee coach brought it up, but just it kind of come to light the way that the whole substitution rule works. I know you're on the rules committee, where the defense has times to substitute. It almost looks like some kind of cat and mouse where they're trying to sub as slowly as possible to maybe get a delay a game or a timeout. How's that supposed to work, and what are we starting to see happen a little bit in college football?
I mean, the coaches know how it's supposed to work, or at least they're supposed to know how it works. I mean, in terms of what you're given, and the issue is every conference officiates it differently. I've watched teams really late at night, so you can imagine where they're playing, what part of the country they're in, where that's completely accepted in terms of take as long as you want. They don't actually let you do that in our league, and that's really to benefit the teams that play with pace. Because if they allow you to sub and take all the time you want, then you really slow teams down. And there's not a game that I played in that they don't come over there and tell you you either got to speed your guys up or we're going to set it on the ready for play, and we're going to wind the clock, because people have made it where if an offense makes a mistake and subs late, they're going to make them burn a timeout. Everybody tries to do it. We even try to do it. But you can't do it at the expense of there's 24 seconds, there's 23 seconds on the clock, and we're going to go sub a guy and take 20 seconds up, because that isn't what it takes. A lot of people say, well, they say you have to sub in 3 seconds. No, you have to start the substitution process in 3 seconds. That's how long you have to start the process. But it doesn't say once you start the process, you can go to snail's pace off. They give you a reasonable amount of time, and they give you an opportunity to snap the ball. So that's the rule. And if somebody subs with 10 seconds left on the shot clock, they're probably going to get a delay of game if somebody tries to sub on defense. But if they do it with 20, there's reasonable time to sub.
Kirby, we saw Tate in that Ole Miss game, struggling, trying to fight through, comes out. What did you think of the job he did against Tennessee, coming back out there and playing that whole game?
He was healthier. I mean, he dinged his ankle in Ole Miss, and it was a tough situation that he felt he needed to try to go and help the team. And that's just what I respect about Tate is, some guys would say, well, I don't want to look bad. I don't want to hurt my draft status. Tate said, I'm going to go out there and fight. I'm going to give you everything I got. And he probably shouldn't have been out there, but he stayed out there and fought. But he's still not healthy, but he was healthier this week and practiced and played better.
Yeah, Chess Jimlis has 4.5 sacks in his last 3 games. What's allowed him to be that productive in terms of actually getting and taking down the quarterback, and how would you assess he did at fullback on Saturday on that last touchdown to me?
He's tough. He's physical, and when we had the offensive line injuries, we were forced to find a kind of another fullback body type, because we've been using Micah there, and we've had guys out. So I think Chaz's work ethic, his buy-in, his leadership, his film study. Chaz knows what people are running before we do as coordinators sometimes, because he looks at so much tape, and he uses those cues to help him and make plays. And he benefited a little bit Saturday. They weren't all sacks are not necessarily your play. Somebody else did a really good job and forced the guy to you. He capitalized on opportunities, and I love the way he's working and playing with toughness.
Yeah, to follow up on Tate, how have you seen him handle this year mentally with being out of the lineup, and how has he still tried to be a leader without being on the field as much during the weekend on Saturdays?
Yeah, he's Tate. I mean, he's a lunch pail, working man's guy. I mean, that whole offensive line unit, guys, there's a lot of snaps between Dylan Fairchild, Jared, Micah, Truss, Tate, and Ernest. I mean, no bones about it. Those guys are the core of our team.
Kirby Carson was kind of joking with us after the Tennessee game that he is a dual threat quarterback. Would you like him to run more? Should he be running more?
I don't, I look at it as Carson makes good decisions on when to run. And he's done a great job this year to me. There's nowhere I can say, ooh, man, I wish you'd pulled it down and ran. I could say I wish you'd have thrown it to the check down. But I can't say that you should have pulled it down and ran. I think he makes good decisions on when to do that. And I think our offensive staff does a tremendous job of utilizing his ability to run on certain plays. I mean, that was a designed run on one of those plays. I mean, people think it was a scramble, but there was a scramble for a touchdown, but there was an empty play where he counted the box and knew what we wanted him to do, and he broke tackles.
Kirby, Holly Rowe reported Trevor Etienne has fractured ribs. What's the recovery time for that? And I don't think I saw Janelle Aguero. Is he dealing with something also?
Yeah, Jonell had a pin, so he got injured in the Ole Miss game, but he's available to play. So he had to get a, I don't know the technical term for it, I don't have it with me, but he got a pin put in his hand, pinky, and was cleared to play, but was going to struggle to play in a club. And so he practiced last week and was available to play. But he didn't get to really use the hand real well. It was a little tender. So he's in the same situation this week, but he's post screw getting put in. So we think he's going to be closer to being able to play. In terms of Trevor, we're hoping to get him back. I mean, what I can tell you, I mean, he's going to have an opportunity. I mean, ribs are a painful injury, right? And I don't actually know if that's the exact term, but he does have rib injury, and we hope to get him back.
Kirby, given still those injuries of running back and Dylan, how valuable is kind of game reps for guys like Nitro, some of the Chauncey, maybe Dwight, this next game or two?
Every rep's valuable. I mean, today's reps are valuable, tomorrow's reps are valuable, and guess what? Last week's reps were valuable. I mean, we had guys out there in practice. I mean, London Humphrey's dealing with a very tough injury and doesn't get to take reps hardly in practice. Cole Spears dealing with injuries. So when you start talking about these guys that have injuries that are preventing them from practicing, but they're able to play, who are we practicing at receiver? Because y'all probably think we're that London and Cole and these guys are taking the reps, and it's been a challenge to be creative in terms of how you practice and how you get guys to the game healthy, but also in shape. Because what's happened at wide receiver is our number of reps have gone up for the guys who are getting the reps in the game. So their volume has had to increase. I would commend Anthony Evans because he actually fought to come back early and took a portion of that rep load off, and he was playing his best football when he got injured. So he had a great off week before Florida. I think it was the week of Florida game when he went down. But all those guys are getting reps and getting better, and I don't necessarily qualify a game rep against UMass or next week's game as any more quality than I do today's reps we're going to get out there.
Kirby, to the casual observer, looking up, seeing 3 tight ends on the field, seeing you use more tight ends in this past game, is that more of a game plan just for Tennessee, or is that a philosophical change for you guys, or is that just, hey, how they practice in the week and let's get them out there?
No, we have 13 plays every week. I mean, I think people mistake 13 for 12 and 11. We have the same plays in 11, 12, and 13. You're just in a different human beings in the same spot. So the casual observer would think that 13 meant something, but we have 13 in every game plan. When you lose receivers, it does make the 13 more valuable because Lawson Lucky might be doing what Dom Lovett does. Dom Lovett might be doing what Dylan Bell does. You're just moving people and trying to put your most valuable players on the field.
Coach, throughout this season, so many of the guys have said a key trait of this team is the resiliency. People that watch it, they think of that on game day, but when you go through your process throughout the week, where do you see that resiliency most effective?
Yeah, I don't see it necessarily in the week of practice. I see it when things are really adverse, and we have adversity in practice, but not the same adversity in maybe stress levels as a game. So this team's been in some tough situations this year, and they've never cowered down from those opportunities. They've shown resiliency and they've battled back, and I think they do that because of how we practice, but I don't think they get a chance to show resiliency every day in practice.
Coach Daniel Harris came in after Julie had the OPI. That's just a case of Daniel just having been more consistent, I guess, during practice up to that time.
Well, Daniel has been playing a lot lately. I don't know if you've been watching, but he's not. That wasn't just the only time. He's played significantly more in recent weeks because he's practiced better, and I thought his practice habits really began to change after Texas during that off week. I thought he stepped it up and had really good practices, and his playing time has increased since then.
Kirby, you kind of alluded to this the other night about UMass playing another SEC team. Is that more valuable to you to watch film against those teams because they might have similar outfits to what you guys have?
Yeah, they played multiple SEC teams. I think it's good because you get to watch how they played those teams. You know, unfortunately, sometimes those teams don't have the same schemes we do, so it's harder because maybe a Mississippi State is different offensively than we are. But yeah, it helps. It helps when the team they're playing is more similar to you, regardless of what conference they're in. But uniquely, UMass's quarterback's out, and so the guy that played against some of those games, they're using 2 quarterback system now with 2 different guys that aren't on those tapes. So it's a little bit you got to anticipate.
Have time for one more question?
We got a 2-parter for you. Michael's stats aren't off the charts, but obviously he's an impactful player. I think he triggered that false start on what would have been a 4th and 5. Can you talk about his performance and also kind of see KJ Bolton all over the place, and what has he done and how has he grown as the years progressed?
Yeah, starting with Michael, I thought he had his very best week of practice this entire year last week. And, when you play Tennessee, it's sometimes hard statistically to get that to show because of the way they play. Their passes are really runs. They throw a lot of RPOs. Well, a defensive lineman is not going to affect RPOs because he's playing the run. But Michael had his best practices. And look, Michael's evaluation is going to come by people that are out there at our practices because he's playing against an NFL-style offense every day of practice. And he had the guy was like running to the ball, covered down extra, stayed after and worked extra. He was committed to getting back in shape, and I thought he had a great week of practice, and I thought he had a really good game too. Second part of that question is KJ. KJ's done a tremendous job he's very intelligent. He understands football. He has great instincts. He's gotten more confident as a player. Last week he had to play strong and free because of the tempo, and he didn't get to play just one position. And he played a lot of snaps for a freshman. And he continues to grow and get better. And I like his humility and the fact that he's a sponge. He's in meetings, he takes notes. He's not a know-it-all. He wants to get better.
Thanks, Coach.